Does this scare you?
Well, there is no reason on earth to fear a blank screen. I mean, you're watching this and my face is far scarier than a blank screen. So you've already overcome that fear. You're winning already. Seriously though, in order to overcome writer's block, we need to know what writer's block truly is. So let's start with the definition. The Oxford Dictionary defines it as the condition of being unable to think of what to write. Now, how does that relate to music? Well, music is the art of communicating our feelings through sound. And therein lies the solution for giving writer's block that finger forever. What do I mean by that? Well, as you know, music is communicating our feelings through sound. So there's two sides here. There's the communicating and there's the feelings. And considering the fact that we are all human, no diss to the robots out there, but this YouTube channel is exclusively for humans, we will not be automated. Give robots the finger. So anyway, that's a whole nother story. The feeling side of things, as humans, we have no problem with that. We are always feeling something, which means we always have something to say, right? Something to communicate through our music. So the breakdown in the creative process happens on the communicating side. Communicating is nothing more than understanding the language of music, aka music theory, in order to say what you want to say. And that is exactly where Hack Music Theory comes in. Through this new series, we're going to be giving you foolproof, step-by-step guides for overcoming writer's block. You've got the feels, we've got the theory, nothing can stop you now. Let's do this. Alright, so in this first episode, I'm going to be showing you how to overcome writer's block by writing a chord progression. So here we go, step 1, chords. Dan, 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 there it is, staring you in the eyes, the blank screen. So what we're going to do with our blank canvas is to quickly make it not blank anymore, without thinking yet, because then it's not scary and we can figure out what we want to say and how we want to say it. So you'll see I've got 3 bars set up here. The reason for that is because we're going to be making a 2-bar chord progression, which will be in here, but what I want you to do here is that 3rd bar, I want you to put in a C, D, E, F, G, A, B. Okay, so we're using the white note hack for this example, and if you don't know what the white note hack is, it's just when you use only the white notes without any black notes. This way it's super simple to say what you want to say in the scales and modes that don't have any sharps or flats, and then you can just select all the MIDI and move it up or down to wherever you want. So it's just a really quick and easy way to work in the scale or the mode that you want without having to worry about sharps or flats. Okay, so what we want to do now, we've got our scale here. We want to fill in the triads. So the 3-note chords, that's going to be our starting point here. That's going to be the menu from which we are going to order. Okay, so triads, as you may know, we just skip a note. So you play the C, skip the D, play the E, skip the F, play the G, right? So you get C, E, G. That's our first triad, so that's a C major triad. And then D, F, A, that's D minor, E, G, B, that's E minor, and then F, A, C, that's F major, and then G, B, D, that is G major, and then A, C, E, that is A minor, and then B, D, F, that is B diminished. If what we just did here is new to you, then please check out my Hack Music Theory Part 1 ebook or PDF. It's super simple. You can learn all about scales and chords in like half an hour. Link is below. Alright, so here we go. This is the 7 chords that we get in the major scale, the minor scale, and all the modes. Here we go. Alright, now we got our chords that we can choose from to write our chord progression. Let's move on to step 2. Are you happy? What the hell am I talking about? Let me explain. So as we were chatting about earlier, writer's block doesn't come from a lack of feeling. It comes from a lack of being able to communicate that feeling. So this is where we completely flip the script. I want you to hit the pause button and take a few moments to reconnect with yourself. What are you feeling? What frame of mind are you in? Are you in a positive situation? Are you in a negative environment? Are you in a good mood? Are you pissed off with someone? Or are you somewhere in the middle? Then after you've taken a few moments to really feel and sink into that emotion that's inside you right now, then here's what I want you to do. If you are feeling on the positive side of things, you're going to be working with the major modes. And if you're feeling on the negative side of things, you're going to be working with the minor modes. Now, there's 3 options on both sides. There is a 4th option for the minor modes. It's called Locrian. It's very, very, very dissonant, and while it's common in metal, it's not common in popular music or electronic music or anything like that. So we're going to be leaving that one out. No offense to Locrian, it's just not the right genre for you, mate. Sorry. Okay, so we have 3 on either side, 3 major, 3 minor. If you are feeling straight up happy, no strings attached, and just like that kind of almost like childlike happiness, just free from responsibility and all kinds of good things, then what you want to do is write your chord progression in the Ionian mode, aka the major scale. If you are feeling happy but also a little bit serious, a bit more kind of mature, balanced happiness, then you want to be writing your chord progression in the Mixolydian mode. And then lastly, if you're feeling happy but quirky and kind of crazy and kooky, then I want you to write your chord progression in the Lydian mode. And then on the other side of things, if you're feeling negative right now, well, firstly, I'm really sorry to hear that. And I hope you'll feel much better after you've written this chord progression that's inside you and got that out. Music is an incredible way of turning negative feelings into something positive in the world. As they say, music is the medicine of the mind. So let's give you some medicine. Okay, so if you are feeling absolutely sad with nothing else, just that feeling, then I want you to write your chord progression in the Aeolian mode, aka the natural minor scale. If you are feeling extremely dark, the weight of the world is on your shoulders right now, then once again, I'm so sorry to hear that, and I hope we can lighten that load by writing this chord progression. But then what I want you to do is use the Phrygian mode. It's a very dark mode. And then if you are feeling sad but hopeful, so you're under a cloud but it has a silver lining, you're in a dark tunnel but you can see the light at the end, then I'm very happy to hear that. You're almost through it. Let's get you through it with this chord progression. And I want you to use the Dorian mode. Okay, so now that you've chosen the scale, the mode that best reflects how you're currently feeling, let's get to the chords. Okay, so if you chose a major mode, so you're feeling positive, if you wanted to write your chord progression in Ionian, you will be using C major as your home chord. And what I mean by that is the home chord is the root chord. So that is the chord that is going to anchor your chord progression into the emotion of that scale, that mode. Okay, so if you want Ionian, you're going to be anchoring into C major. If you want Mixolydian, you're going to be anchoring into the G major chord. So the G major is going to be your root chord. And if you want Lydian, the F major is going to be your root chord. Okay, and then on the other side, if you're choosing a minor mode, if you are going to write in Aeolian, then A minor is going to be the chord you want to anchor into as your root chord. If you are writing in Phrygian, then your root chord is going to be E minor. And if you're choosing Dorian to write your chord progression, then your root chord is going to be D minor. And by the way, the B diminished up here, this is the root chord for Locrian, so we won't be using that one. Okay, so those are the options. Now, when I talk about anchoring into the root chord to reflect the vibe of that mode, and therefore the emotion that's inside you right now, what I mean by that is that you want to ensure that your listener perceives that chord as being the home of your chord progression. So in other words, that chord needs to sound like the most important chord in your chord progression. It needs to sound like the chord progression is leaving that chord, going on a journey, and then returning to that chord as being the home. So that would be the chord you would end on, and everything would sound complete. Now there's a few ways to achieve this, but probably the easiest way to get your listeners' ears to perceive the root chord as the home is by playing it first in your chord progression. The other ways to do it are playing it longer than the other chords. So you could play the root chord somewhere else in the progression, but you spend more time on it. Or you could repeat it, so you play it and then you go somewhere else and you come back to it. So however you do it is up to you, but just ensure that you get your listeners to hear the intended root chord as the proper home for your chord progression. If you don't achieve this, what will end up happening is their ear will be drawn to another chord as being the root chord, which means that you're anchoring into a completely different emotion. That's why it's really important to make sure that your chord progression is in the mode that you intended to be in. So whatever you choose, make sure your listeners are hearing your intended root chord as the root chord. And then you are already winning, because then they're already feeling the emotion that you are communicating to them. And that's the amazing magic connection that happens through music. Alright, things are hotting up. Writer's block is a thing of the past, and we're already on step 3, choosing your chords. So now that you have figured out what mode you want to write your chord progression in, grab your root chord. So I'm going to do mine in Mixolydian because I'm feeling very happy, but also serious. Probably because my inbox is overflowing with 1 million emails that I need to reply to, and that's making me feel serious. But I'm super happy. So I'm going to go with Mixolydian. I'm going to pull out the G major as my root chord, and I'm just going to start on this because that's, as I said, that's the easiest way to establish that that root chord and anchor into the mode and its vibes. So here is the thing: every single mode has the same amount of major chords and minor chords. So every mode has the 3 majors, 3 minors, and that 1 black sheep diminished triad. Because this B diminished, right, that one, that's the black sheep of our family. It's very dissonant. You don't hear it much in pop music, so I'm actually going to delete it. If you're wanting to really bring tension into your chord progression, then absolutely use it, of course. But I'm feeling way too happy right here for diminished triad. Okay, G major is the root chord for my chord progression here. And now the next thing you want to do is tell your musical story through the chords you choose. So I always want you to be thinking about your chord progression in terms of majors versus minors. So what percentage of majors to minors are you using? If you say, for example, you have 4 chords in your chord progression, if one of them is a minor chord and then the other 3 is major, you've got 25% minor and 75% major. So that's going to feel definitely overwhelmingly happy. Or the reverse, you could have 1 chord major, 3 minors, so that's going to feel overwhelmingly sad. And that's the amazing thing about writing chord progressions in the modes, is that every mode actually has the same amount of major chords and minor chords. What makes the difference, and it's the world of difference, is what the root chord is, because the root chord is the core emotion for the mode and therefore your chord progression. So it's really amazing how you could write a chord progression in a minor mode, so it's actually got, at its core, it has a sad feeling to it, but you could still do the same thing. You have like just the root chord is minor, and then you've got 3 chords that are major. So even though you've got at your core a very sad feeling, it's going to feel as positive as it possibly can within that context, and then vice versa as well. You could write a chord progression in a major mode, which is actually, which only contains 1 major chord, and that's obviously needs to be the root chord. So and then you could have like 3 chords that are minor. So even though you're in a major mode, the core emotion is absolutely happy and uplifting, but you are creating as much of a sad atmosphere within that uplifting context as possible. And then you can play with all kinds of like gradients within that. It's just amazing. There's an infinite amount of things you can say through these 7 chords, or 6 chords even. So, okay, now I as happy as I am, I want to create a little bit of balance to this. So instead of going from a major chord into another major chord, which is accumulating, right? You're accumulating happiness. I want to balance it. So we're going to go major and then to minor. So I've got 3 choices. I can use the D minor, I can use the E minor, or the A minor. And this is where it's your choice. This is my chord progression, so I'm going to choose what I like the sound of. Your chord progression, you choose what you like the sound of. There is no wrong. It's it's what you want to say, and the cool thing is what you want to say today is different to what you want to say tomorrow. So choose whatever chord tells your musical story for right now. And for me, I am thinking this D minor is exactly what I want next. So have a listen to this. And then I actually don't feel ready to go back to a major yet. So I actually think I'm going to go to A minor next, like this. You know what? I actually want 1 more minor still before we go to the major, because we're really gonna kind of milk this G major up front here. So I kind of want the listener to really go on this journey through the minors and kind of make them work before they get back to the major. That's kind of, this is symbolizing my inbox causing me anxiety. Lots of happiness, boom, but then kind of lots of anxiety from the amount of emails I need to answer. I feel like 2 minor chords here is not enough. So I'm going to pull over this E minor as well. Okay, so we're going D minor to the A minor to the E minor, and then I'm going to give you a major. And what better major than the root triad? So let's go to G major again. So this is your anxiety. Well, it's my anxiety that I'm sharing with you. So this is the journey through the minors. And now that you have finished your emails, now that I've finished my emails, I wish, then, you know, you get through that anxiety and we return to the core emotion of this mode, which is happy, uplifting vibes. So, so there you go. We've kind of anchored back into the root again. And I don't feel like that's enough though, because, you know, we're returning, this is very much, exactly what I want to say, in terms of our musical story. You know, I'm starting on the G major, venturing through the kind of anxiety of my emails, and then returning to the, that core emotion, the G major, but that is not actually injecting any new happiness into it. So I very definitely want to use another major chord. So I'm going to use C major as our last chord here, and I'm not going to use the F major. You know, you don't have to obviously use all the chords, so I was going to delete that. You can use as many chords as you want, or as few, whatever. I mean, every time you write a chord progression, you're telling a different story, so there's going to be a different way of approaching it. And you know, you need to use as many chords as you need to tell you, you know, to communicate what you're trying to say. All right, have a listen to this. So that is actually the writing process done. Now we move into what's like the editing stage of our creative process. So we're going to take the musical story that we've written, and we're going to edit it and make it the best it can be. So it's the same story, but it's just going to sound way smoother and polished and way more professional. And the way we're going to do that is step 4, and that's rearranging the notes to make the chord changes flow smoothly. And what we're talking about here is using inversions and sus chords, where you don't have common notes. So wherever you do have a common note, you want to rearrange the notes in the chords to keep that common note in the same place within those chords as they change, and that's what makes the chord change really smooth. And whenever you have adjacent triads, so in other words, if you're playing a triad and you go to the next one up or down in the scale, you won't have a common note, so you need to use a sus chord, a sus2 or sus4, to make a common note, so then you can still use that same technique to keep things flowing smoothly. We've got a couple videos on how to make chords flow smoothly, so check those out. You know, for chords with common notes and chords without common notes. And with that technique, you can literally make any chord flow smoothly into any chord. So definitely a vital part of making sure that what you say musically comes across the best it can. All right, so let's do it. So we've got G major here going to D minor, and we can see common note is D, so we're just going to move that D an octave higher, and now you can see we've got the D at the top in both of those chords, so that's going to flow super smoothly into each other. Have a listen quick. Okay, really lovely. And you can already see the common note here, A into, so from the D minor into the A minor. But we need the common notes in the same place, right? So you can see it's in the middle of this chord here, so it needs to be in the middle of the way we arrange this one as well. So we're going to pull this E down an octave. And now you can see that the common note is in the middle of both of these chords. Okay, and then, oh, this one's just fixed itself. So now the common note is at the bottom as we move into the E minor here. Then from the E minor to the G major, you can see we've actually got two common notes here, and they're not in the same place at the moment, so we just need to pull this D down an octave, and now you can see common notes in the same place. And then same thing here, we've got G common note from the last chord, from that chord into the last chord, which was the C major. Not in the same place though, so the common note, you can see it's in the middle of this chord, but then in this chord it's at the top. So we just need to move the C up an octave, and now we've got the common note in the middle of both of these chords. Okay, and always remember to check your last chord back around to your first chord, because chord progressions loop around, and people often forget to check that that chord change is smooth as well. And it's actually not, because the G is in the middle of the C major chord here, and then the G is at the bottom of the G major chord here. So we need to get the G at the bottom of this chord too. And the easy way to do that is just split the chord, and we're going to play through two different versions of that C major chord. So we'll move this E up an octave, and now we have the G at the bottom here, and then again here. Done. Now have a listen to this. So and I'll loop it around so you can get a feel for what it sounds like when it goes back to the beginning. On to the last step, step 5. Did I say step 4? Step 5. Okay, so step 5 is harmonic rhythm, and this is a game changer of a step. This is where we inject the life and energy into the chord progression. So this is really where it comes to life. Because currently we're just kind of playing through the chords. What we're going to do now is give the chords rhythm. Okay, so harmonic rhythm is just, it's the rhythm of the chord. So in other words, where the chords change, how long you stay on each chord. Okay, so the first chord, instead of just having it for like these 2 quarter beats, let's actually pull that G major 1 early. So we're gonna actually hit the minor chord a little bit earlier than you're expecting. So it's going to kind of create a bit of an unexpected twist in our chord progression here. So this is what we call syncopation. We're accenting the offbeat. So you can see this is the quarter note pulse here, and this is the next quarter note pulse here, and that chord change is happening right in the middle on that 8th note between the quarter note pulse. So that syncopation is really awesome in the harmonic rhythm, creates this unexpected skip in the step, keeps things fresh and unpredictable. Okay, so moving on. Oh yeah, I noticed that the second bar here is actually in 3/4. I've only got 3 chord notes. I'm just going to extend it to make it in 4/4. That was the plan anyway. So we've got 2 bars of 4/4. So we've got 4 quarter notes in the first bar and 4 quarter notes in the second bar. And I'm just going to grab all of this and move it over into the second bar because I want to extend that D minor chord all the way to the end of the first bar. So we get this the major root triad, so that home chord, and then that unexpected syncopation into the D minor chord, which immediately creates that balance. So we start with that happy vibe and then immediately goes over to the other side, balancing things out, and then in a way it actually goes a little bit over to the minor side because we're spending more time on a minor chord than a major chord in that first bar. And then when we go into the second bar, I'm hearing this A minor as staying the same, like 1 quarter note. I think it's nice to kind of create that that expected chord change on the first beat of the bar, because it kind of lures your listener back into thinking that everything's going to be where they expect now, and then it's not. And that way we can actually create a totally fresh sound for the second half of this chord progression. Now they are going to be expecting the chord to kind of last the same amount of time as the first chord in the first bar. So they're kind of subconsciously or consciously expecting that same harmonic rhythm. And I'm thinking we switch it up and once again change before they're expecting it. Because if you change after they're expecting it, then because you missed where it had changed, then they're already kind of expecting the change. Whereas if you change before, there's no warning. So I think that's going to be really cool to switch up into this next chord on beat 2 of the second bar, whereas normally it would have been on that 2 and, right, like which we do in the first bar. And then this is what's going to be cool. I don't want to completely rewrite the harmonic rhythm in the second bar. I want to maintain some kind of consistency with the first bar. So there's actually a way that we can use that motif. Motif, just a short musical idea, can be anything, melody, harmony, rhythm, whatever. And this is kind of like a harmonic rhythm. So by repeating that motif, we create this kind of familiarity in the second bar, but by kind of switching it up a little bit, we create that ultimate familiarity yet freshness. So that's what we're always striving for. Give people a little bit of kind of what they recognize, but then a little twist to keep things fresh and unpredictable. So here's what I'm thinking. Let's shorten that E minor chord to just 1/8 note. That is it. That is a very, very short chord. And that's not, nothing against short chords. I'm a short human, so oh, that was a bad joke. Okay, moving right on. Nothing wrong with spending an 8th note on a chord. You create this incredible movement and kind of urgency as you just kind of skip right through it onto the next chord. So we're going to pull over the G major, and now check this out. We actually we hit that G major on the 2 and this is what is really cool about kind of reusing this motif with a fresh twist. So in the first bar we've got 1.5 beats of major and 2.5 beats of minor. Okay, now in the second bar, check this out, we actually start with 1.5 beats of minor, and then down we go to 2.5 beats of major. So we're actually kind of reusing that harmonic rhythm, but throwing an extra chord in here and switching the chord qualities. So major to minor, and then minor to major. Very cool. Okay, so let's move on. We've got the G major there, and then we're going into that C major. And let's also create some syncopation as we kind of move through that. So we're going to go to the C major here, and then we're actually going to change to the other position of the C major. So this is all the same chord, it's all just C major. We're just changing the order of the notes, so just rearranging the notes through, that's what you call inversions, just a fancy way of saying changing the order of the notes, but exactly the same note, same chord. And what that does is, as we said earlier, gets us that common note G at the bottom of the chord, and then we can come around to the G major where that common note is at the bottom. And that's it. We are done. We now have an incredible chord progression which eloquently communicates our feelings right now to our listeners. And to think that that all just came from a blank screen. There you go. Done deal. Give writer's block the bingo. And just before I play the final chord progression, just a quick heads up that other than emphasizing the root chord of your mode, in order to really anchor your chord progression into that mode and therefore the vibe of that mode, you also need to emphasize a specific chord in each mode, and that's the chord that makes it different. Anyway, there's a few subtleties and things like that. If you need help with that, please check out my Hack Music Theory for Songwriting and Producing PDF. Got a whole bunch of hacks in there for chord progressions and obviously the modes and different vibes, and a whole bunch more about writing melodies and stuff too. So link is below. And I will now shut up. There's a whole bunch of talking. I'm gonna drink some tea and play you this chord progression. Here we go. Tasty, tasty, but obviously we probably don't want it on a piano, so give me a minute and I'll be right back. I'm gonna throw it on a synth and get a little drum groove and a little bass line, and we'll have a listen. Alright, here we go. I'll see you in a, well, for you it's gonna be a second, for me it's gonna be a few minutes. Okay, all done. Here you go. Hope you enjoy, and thank you so much for watching. I know it was a bit of a long one, but you know, writer's block, it's worth getting rid of it once and for all. I hope you agree, and I'll see you next week on the Hack Music Theory Show. Bye.